Now, Jesse asked the question just a minute ago, is there going to be a crash in the next 2 months? I mean, he's been reading these things on the internet, and they're on the right and on the left. You got people with their hair on fire about the economy, and with good reason. And it's international, by the way, because as Paul Krugman pointed out in a brilliant column a week or so ago in the New York Times, back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, again, Reaganomics in that era, we deregulated the flow of money between countries. So this financialization went international. And, a bunch of people jumped into that and started just manipulating currencies and making a fortune while crashing companies. I mean, this is one of the ways George Soros, he comes right out and talks about it, basically bankrupting Thailand, as I recall, or maybe it was Taiwan. But I was in Thailand when it was booming, and I was in the early 80s, and I was in Thailand later when it had busted. And in fact, Louise and I were there with the kids the week that there was a revolution. They were stacking bodies in the lobby of our hotel the day after we flew out of the country in the Sheraton Hotel in downtown Bangkok. But we had been down there visiting the Klong Toi slum, which is a whole other story. But in any case, those currencies, they got deregulated. Banking got deregulated. All these things have happened. We're making these stupid mistakes. You get a generation of stupid mistakes, and then you get this disaster. So anyhow, he said 2 months. Is it going to happen in 2 months? Here's my response to that. I titled the book "The Crash of 2016" because what President Obama and his administration is doing right now is essentially the same thing that George Bush was doing from maybe 2004 forward. It became apparent in 2004, 2005 that the United States was heading for a really serious recession and maybe even a crash. And it became obvious in the middle of 2006. And I was talking about it on the radio on this program when we had, and it was just a serendipitous coincidence that in 2006 I was reading a book that was published back in the 40s that was a history, a definitive history of the Great Depression and what led up to it. And it was telling this whole story about in 1926, there was, from 1921 to 1926, there had been so much hot money flooding into the real estate market and the stock market too, as a result of this huge tax cut that Warren Harding put into place, that they called it, those intermittent years, they called them the Coolidge prosperity, right? It was just like this giant bubble, right? That during the Hoover administration, the bubble burst. But in 1926, housing starts dropped more than 30% in 1 quarter. And the price of real estate down in Florida, from Florida all the way up to New York City and all the way across to California, but particularly in Florida, the price of real estate had been almost doubling every year in 24, 25, and 26. And then in 26, housing starts dropped by about a 30% drop in the end of 1926. And that presaged, and then that housing start drop continued into 1927, and that presaged the Great Crash. And so I'm reading this book, and I read an article in the Financial Times about how, the quarterly housing starts numbers had just come out. This was in 2006, and you can go back and look at it. The last quarter of 2006, as I recall, it might have been the third quarter, but whichever one it was, they dropped almost 34%. It was an almost mirror image of 1926. And so I went on the air and said, if I was in the stock market, and I was in a small way, I mean, I'm not a wealthy investor by any means, but, you get a little bit of retirement money. I said, if I'm in the stock market, I'm selling everything. I'm turning it all into cash. And people for the next 2 years were calling into this show, and those of you who've been long-term listeners, you know this story, calling in going, hey, Hartmann, the stock market just went up another 300 points, and I just made another, $400 on my GE stock. How about you? And I'm sitting on cash. Not a lot, but I'm sitting on, And, I've just, for 2 years, almost 2 years, it was about a year and a half. And then the bottom fell out of the stock market. And then people started calling going, hey, I got out of the market when you suggested, and I missed that peak. I missed that top 3,000 points, but thank God I did, because the market is now at 5,600 or whatever it was, when it was really in the tank. So I'm back in cash, and I'm no investment advisor, and I don't, I'm not telling you to follow my investment advice, because I'm a lousy investor. I've never made money investing. I don't think people should have to make money investing. I think this whole 401k IRA scam that Ronald Reagan sold us to do away with pensions so that we would all suddenly have to start paying attention to the stock market and really caring about it and watching TV shows and reading books and learning what these different things are. Hey, do you know what VXX is? And you know, how's your GE stock doing today? All of this stuff was just to get us to identify with the billionaires, to get us to think that the stock market was some sacred thing, that it was some barometer that we should care about. Frankly, we shouldn't give a rat's patootie about the stock market. The stock market, you know, 80% of the stocks in the United States are held by very, very wealthy people or banks, you know, or pension or, you know, trust funds. So it shouldn't be an issue for us. But it is, because so many people have 401ks and IRAs, and they put money in stocks in them. And so now we get scammed, by the scam artists on Wall Street and the banksters and the hustlers, you know, thanks to Ronald Reagan. But anyhow, I'm seeing the Obama administration do the same thing the Bush administration did, which is try to blow that bubble as hard as you can until after the next presidential election, so that you and your party don't get blamed for the crash. And it didn't work for George Bush. He mistimed it by about 9 months. And I don't know if it's going to work for President Obama or not. I don't know if he can hold this thing off until November or December of 2016, or if it's going to go next week. I don't have any clue. You'd have to have a crystal ball or be a whole lot better at charting and trading and understanding cycles of markets and all that kind of. I am not knowledgeable in that area. But what I do know is that the infrastructure, the regulatory infrastructure, is not in place. We have not been enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act. We have not been regulating the banksters. We haven't even been doing what Ronald Reagan did with the S&Ls. He nationalized all of the S&Ls and sent 1,000 people to trial and 600 people to prison over the S&L crisis. I mean, we should be doing that right now with people on Wall Street.